Let's follow Mr. Poorly Drawn Stickman, a 10th grade English teacher who wants to find out how many people use the glorious SparkNotes. So, he hands out a test asking, do you use SparkNotes? And like a good little angel, each student answers, no. Everything I write for analysis in this class is 100% my own thoughts. Mr. Poorly Drawn Stickman compiles all of this data and determines he is a great teacher. He continues his rant on how bunnies will outlive all the humans on the beach. But this is obviously a problem. Everyone totally lied about whether or not they use SparkNotes, because it would be bad to admit that to Mr. Poorly Drawn Stickman, their unfortunate English teacher. To correct this, we use a method called randomized response, which has some very ugly math behind why it works, which we can ignore for the time being. Now, Mr. Stickman has taken an AP Statistics course, and he understands that his survey suffered from response bias. This time, he wants to figure out what proportion of students have cheated in the past 2 weeks. So we know he needs to use randomized response, but what is it? Basically, Mr. Stickman is going to give each student 3 cards to pick from. Is the sky blue? Are you a hippopotamus? Or have you cheated on a test or exam in the past 2 weeks? The 2 silly questions are called innocuous questions. Ideally, 1/3 of his students will pick each card. He knows that 2/3 of his answers are all junk, because they are innocuous and he can disregard them, leaving only the data that he wants. The key to this is that he does not know each individual student's response. If they answer yes, either the sky is blue, or they have cheated. If they answer no, either they are not a hippopotamus, or they have not cheated. He can generalize results to the sample, and then to the population as a whole, by using just a little bit of math. But he cannot determine whether or not individuals have cheated. So he compiles data from IB high schoolers, goes through it, and sees that something is a bit off. It seems that a negative percentage of juniors have cheated, negative 11.8%. Now, obviously, a negative proportion like this is nonsense. The correction formula that we saw earlier indicates that even fewer people responded with a yes than if all of the yes respondents answered the question, is the sky blue? For example, we assumed that 1/3 of the sample of 99 would answer the question, is the sky blue? But in this scenario, only 20 answered, is the sky blue? And a lot more answered, are you a hippopotamus? This would skew the results quite a lot. Now, there are some yes answers to Mr. Stickman's survey. To figure out whether or not this could happen by chance, he remembers the binomial theorem from pre-calculus. He does a bit of math. There are 2 to the 5 ways for the 5 respondents who said yes to answer either the question, is the sky blue? Or, have you cheated? There are 2 to the 12 ways for the 12 respondents who said no to answer either the hippopotamus question or to say, no, I haven't cheated. Mr. Stickman then uses binomial theorem to figure out that there are 2 to the 12 ways for all of the yes answers to be to, is the sky blue? He calculates this probability and finds that the juniors probably weren't telling the truth. There is only a 3.12% chance that the results could have come from natural sampling variability. In fact, removing the juniors from the sample makes the interval for cheaters jump from 25 to 56% to 37 and 72%. This tells us that there was still some bias in the sampling. Of those who told the truth, between 37 and 72% have cheated, But even without juniors, there were likely several students who lied. The true interval probably looks more like this, centered at 90, going up to 100, and going down to about 75. In fact, many professional surveys estimate the centers of their intervals to be over 3/4. For example, this 2010 survey by the Josephson Institute estimates about 84% of public school students cheating. In other words, Mr. Stickman teaches both cheaters and liars. This concludes Mr. Poorly Drawn Stickman survey. Between 1/4 and 3/4 of students cheat. Probably more. It just depends on who you ask.